Hey there, Hampton Roads. Welcome back to another episode of the 757 Soccer Chat with me, your host, JC. We come into this Sunday morning as spring break envelops us and embraces us with new hope and new opportunities to refresh and to take it all in, to take a break and relax, to rest, recoup, and all together come together and enjoy a little bit of time spent with our friends, our family, loved ones, and a whole lot of work to be done. I myself am going to be involved in a ton of editing projects as well as other endeavors that I need to take care of. But for the time being, I'm going to chat with you guys a little bit about these rankings that we just had come out on the 757 Soccer Chat. Yes, it is the rankings show. It is the Sunday after rankings drop, and I know you've been looking forward to this episode because you want to hear me talk about, well, why I put certain teams in certain places. That's what we're going to do today. I'm going to tell you why Tab Boys are 14th. I'm going to tell you why the Lansdowne Girls are 8th. And I'm going to tell you why all of these different teams fall into the places that they do. It's going to be talking about all 40 teams that we've got into those rankings. Again, top 20 boys, top 20 girls. Hey, 40 teams. We win at math. But over the next, 45 minutes to maybe an hour. I don't know how long this is going to be. We'll see. We'll play it on the fly. But I'm going to let you know how I feel, what I feel, and just exactly where we're going to go in the future with all of these different endeavors. Let's start our perusal of our standings, our rankings, with 16 through 20 on the ladies' side. Starting in with number 20, Gloucester. The Lady Dukes have a 3-2 record. They've beaten Churchland, Hampton, Denby, and they've also lost to two teams that are ahead of them in Poquoson and Smithfield. Poquoson, they lost 3-0, and then Smithfield, they lost 1-0. So it's kind of where they sit. They've been a solid team. They've shown the ability to win games and shown the ability to beat the opponents that they're supposed to. And this is kind of one of those. The Lady Dukes, they fell right into that slot of they got done fall into that territory of having taken care of business where they're supposed to, and then had some difficult moments so far in the season, and it lines up the way you would expect. So we'll see what they have left for them rest of the season. They do have a Peninsula District schedule, so going to be interesting to see how they manage to get through that, how they'll do against teams like Menchville and Warwick within the division, and then moving forward what they can do in the Class 4 playoffs. Next up is War Hill at 19 for the ladies. War Hill, 4 games on the season. They beat Tab during Keepers Cup as well as tied Lafayette. But then they also lost to Princess Anne and Kellam, who are above them in the standings. So, again, falling right in line with expectations. Did well to earn the draw with Lafayette at Keepers Cup. And now it's just a matter of making improvements and getting better over the course of the season, prepping for the 4A playoffs. Into 18th, Poquoson. The Lady Islanders, they actually are sitting on an undefeated record. And it's an interesting place to have to put them because we need to see more. We need to see what they've got. They've beaten Gloucester. They've beaten Deep Creek. Both of those teams are behind them in the standings. Now, as they get into Bay Rivers District play, we're going to have to see, can they play against War Hill? Can they play against Tab? Can they play against Jamestown and Smithfield? Can they take on the best that are in the Bay Rivers District and continue to improve upon an already fantastic start to the season. So, well done to the Islanders in that endeavor. Just ahead of them, Jamestown. Jamestown's had a bit of a bumpy start to the year. A 1-0 victory over Tab, and 2 losses both to Atlee and Kellam. Now, Atlee and Kellam are 2 of the best teams in the state. And then they've also had 2 canceled matches. 2 of their matches that were supposed to be played at Keepers Cup. A misunderstanding with Princess Anne, whether or not they were going to play in the Keepers Cup tournament at the beginning of the season, caused that match to be canceled, as well as a cancellation against War Hill because that Friday decided to pour. So they didn't get to play that match. Jamestown, many more matches to come. We're going to see more out of them. They're going to still be a top squad, and I expect them to more than likely move up in the rankings. But we'll see as the season progresses if they're able to put together more of what they need. Smithfield, just ahead of them then, in 16th. They've beaten all the teams that they were supposed to, and they also knocked off Gloucester 1-0. And then they got to this past week and had a couple of unfortunate results. They lost to Western Branch 7-0, and that was a game that we had really pipped as, going to be a litmus test for everybody. And they did not do well with it. But a lot of freshmen, a lot of inexperience going up against a very talented and very experience-heavy Bruins squad. So a little bit of a learning curve and getting into, okay, this is some real competition at the higher level, the varsity level. And then they played a Nansemond River squad, and to Nansemond River's credit, they bossed most of the match, and they had plenty of opportunities. They just missed on a number of those chances. Did pull out a 2-1 victory. Smithfield made it a little close in the last 5 minutes, but in all that was aided by a red card, and generally Nansemond River held the game. So Smithfield's got some movement to go, but they are still a good squad. They do have quality on their side. So seeing them in this position that they're in currently at 16 is really where they should be in my eyes. And moving forward, are they going to be able to get more wins against the quality opponents in the Bay Rivers contests that are going to propel them forward into maybe even the 11 through 15 spots, or even into a top 10 spot? So that is yet to be seen. Moving forward with the ladies now 11 through 15. Nansemond River sitting at 15, again beating Smithfield 2-1, puts them right above them. And then it's a matter of, all right, what can we do now? They are undefeated. They've beaten Bayside, Salem, Bruton, Grafton, and Smithfield. So now it's a matter of, what can you do now? What can you propel yourself going into Southeastern District play to do to make up for what you need to do in order to really have a chance at states and your aspirations that you have. So with that comes the now daunting task of playing Western Branch, Grassfield, Hickory, and Great Bridge in the district play. And then avenging a loss to Oscar Smith, avenging a result to some of the other squads that may or may not have had a great result against last season. Really improving on what you can do with the resources that you have. So looking forward to Nansemond River bumping up their status as well. Into 14 is the Cox Falcons. Do not let their 2-3 record fool you. Do not let their scores fool you. Do not let last year fool you about this Cox squad. They are back. They're not fully back, but they're coming back. And it's good to see, because a Cox squad that is good at girls soccer makes it better for everybody in the 757. It's a benchmark. Early losses to a number of good teams that are ahead of them. Kempsville, Grassfield, Hickory. There were close losses, but they were still losses. So that's where we are. But then this week, found 2 victories, a 2-0 win over Lansdowne, a 3-0 win over Bayside. Big momentum going into the break. There's still going to be growing pains for this squad. Do not expect them to win every Beach District game. They still have to run the gauntlet. They still have to play Kellam. They still have to play First Colonial. They still have to play Ocean Lakes. They still have to get tested. They still have to play Princess Anne and get tested. It's not going to be just all smooth sailing, but the opportunities are there for the Falcons to make a little run, to make a little name, and to get some momentum and start moving back towards putting Cox soccer back where on the pedestals that we're used to seeing it. Coming in at 13 for the ladies, Maury. Maury, I had high hopes for these ladies, and I still do. And I think an Eastern District title is well within their reach. Their first 6 games, they didn't concede a goal until the game against Manor. So, genuinely, 80 times 5 is 400 minutes, plus Manor scored, I think, 25 minutes into the game. So, we'll call it 425 minutes of scoreless soccer that the Commodores played, which is fantastic. I saw them in preseason. They played well against Great Bridge. And then they had these close games against Ocean Lakes. And Hickory had to come from behind to beat them 3-2. This is not your same Maury squad that we've seen before. They're winning in a different way. They're not just relying now on Lily White to keep the net clean and to give them opportunities to find something down the field. They are going forward. They are making opportunities, making chances, and they're going to be hard to beat once we get through the regular season and into the playoffs. So kudos to those ladies and for what they've done. Coming in at 12, the team that just beat them out the other day, 3-2 comeback victories, Hickory Hawks. And talking with their coach and talking with some of the folks that are familiar with the Hickory squad, it's a bit of a rough start to the season, especially when it comes to injuries and unfortunate circumstances. But even through it, they've made the best of it. They did not start out well. They started out with 2 losses to First Colonial and going down to First Flight in Carolina. Did not come back with the victory. However, they kickstarted their campaign back up with a 2-0 victory over Cox, a couple of draws, Currituck and Kempsville, and then they've beaten Salem, they've beaten Maury. So they're making the best of a situation that isn't necessarily the best, but they're turning in results. Now, just like Nansemond River, comes the difficult part. Turning in results now that it comes down to district play. Now that it comes down to the hard teams. The teams that they know, the teams that they've been playing against for years, the teams that they really, really want to beat. Can Hickory keep that momentum going? Now, 5 games unbeaten going into the Southeastern District. And then at 11, Princess Anne. Princess Anne's been kind of up and down. It's hard to put a pin on this team of where they sit. It's every 2 games do really, really well, big wins, give up 0 goals, and then the 3rd game they lose by 4. Cape Henry, War Hill wins. Great Bridge, big loss. Grafton, Bayside wins. Kempsville, big loss. So what iteration of the Cavaliers are we going to get moving forward? What iteration of the Cavaliers are we going to get once we get into Beach District play? Are we going to see them perform against the likes of First Colonial and Ocean Lakes? Are we going to see them test Kellam at all? Are we going to see them hold their own against the other runners in the beach like Lansdowne and Cox and Bayside and Salem? What are we going to see out of the Cavaliers now that we're getting into the district play? So interesting dynamic that the Cavaliers have coming up. Interested to see just what they do with it and if they're going to make a name for themselves, both in the district and with their seeding in the 5A playoffs. Top 10 now. Top 10. Starting off, Lafayette. Lafayette, ladies, it's not a typical Lafayette year. If we remember, they were, for by and large, the only other team that we really said could challenge Kellerman First Colonial at the top of all the brackets. And this season, right now, it's a bit of a tough one. 2 wins, York and Woodside, a draw at Keepers Cup against Warhill, a canceled match during the Keepers Cup, and then 2 matches against 2 solid sides in Great Bridge and Deep Run. Both of those losses, but both of those close losses. So nothing as far as they're completely out of sorts, nothing that says they're out of their depth, out of their element. They're right there. They just need to get a couple players back, get through the break. And then actually they have a couple of matches this week coming up, and that's going to really show what they've gotten together, what they've been doing, and how they're going to congeal chemistry with their chemistry moving forward into the rest of the season. Next up in our list, our rankings, number 9, Menchville. Menchville, they've put it together, and they have the team to get the job done. They have a ton of talented players, but they have had a couple of unfortunate losses going into this week. They did drop a close game to Grassfield, and then they also dropped a game to the Eagles of Lansdowne. So they sit now on a 3-2 record. They are the type of team that their record says exactly who they are. And that's not a bad thing, because it gives them an opportunity to improve. It gives them an opportunity to understand where they need to be and what they need to do in order to get better. But it also says that they are not to be trifled with, because the wins that they have had have been just comprehensive. There's no question that the teams that they beat them handily, and they did what they were supposed to do. So it's now just improving in those games that are going to be tight, that are going to be tough, and excited to see what more Menchville can do moving forward with the next month and a half of our season. Position 8, the team that beat them out earlier this week, Lansdowne Girls. This is a team that I do not believe that anybody had their eyes on, except for the people that actually know. Now, did they finish on 2 losses to go into spring break? Yes, they did. Are they going to need to get momentum back? Yes, they are. Because this can be a slippery slope for this team should those 2 losses begin to affect their psyche, their chemistry. But let's also look at the positive. Taking out Deep Creek, Menchville, and Norfolk Collegiate, 3 straight wins on the bounce against quality teams, and then as well playing an Oscar Smith team who is now resurging, and a Grafton side who is holding their own going into the break as well. So good victories, 5-2 record. I enjoy seeing where this team is at. We had eyes on this team last year, and now going into this year, we were doing the same. Excited to see that they are putting together the results and holding their own with teams that are in the top 15 and top 10. We'll see if they can continue that run moving forward. At 7, Kempsville, the Lady Chiefs. We've talked about this team a ton, and they are doing some fantastic things. Wins over Cox and Princess Anne and Salem. Draw against Hickory. That might have been an unfortunate result for their squad, but still quality matchup, and then a tight 1-2 loss to Grassfield. This is a team that is putting all the things together. They're putting all the parts in place, and they're going to have a say when it comes to the playoffs of who moves on and who does not. So, excited for this squad. They need to keep working, because they've still got further places to reach, further goals to reach. But For the time being, well done. Just ahead of them, Western Branch at the 6th spot. This squad has done practically everything that's been asked of them. The only result that they had that was negative so far is a 4-0 loss to Ocean Lakes. Granted, Ocean Lakes is number 2 for a reason. So there is a gap there. There is a separation there, another echelon to reach to for those ladies, but there's plenty of good things coming out of this squad, and excited to see just exactly what else they have to offer. The other squad that is right there with them, and, you might not think about it looking at the record, but the Grassfield ladies are just right there, even with those Bruins. If you look at the games that they've won and the games that they've lost, Cox, Menchville, Kempsville, Lansdowne, those are the wins. The losses, Kellam, First Colonial, and Ocean Lakes. Those are the it's like they're right smack dab in the middle of where they're supposed to be. And honestly, they are a fantastic team. They play very well. They play a tough schedule. And now they're moving into the Southeastern District, and they're going to be fighting for the district title, as they have been for a number of years. This is going to be a knockdown, drag-out fight for the rest of the year. And we're going to see what these teams, especially these Southeastern District teams, can do moving forward. Especially because our number 4 is Great Bridge. They beat Lafayette. They beat Princess Anne. They beat Currituck. They only lost to Ocean Lakes by a goal. It's tight. It's tense. It's tough. These teams are good. These teams have parity. And it's going to take special players in these games to step up and make a difference for their squads. And even more so, it's going to take the individual player, or not the individual players, but it's going to take collective defensive efforts from these ladies' teams. Great Bridge's defense is fantastic. They hold their own, they keep teams out, and we need to see more of it moving forward, especially as they get into the Southeastern District play and some other matches that they're going to have to play in order to catch up with the number of match total. But as it sits, they're at number 4 for a reason, and until somebody knocks them out of that spot, that's where they'll probably stay. At 3rd, First Colonial, and we're not going to move out of the Beach District beyond this. First Colonials had 3 wins, Hickory, Grassfield, Maniel. Their only 2 losses are to the teams that are ahead of them, Kellam and Ocean Lakes. And genuinely, I don't necessarily see anybody changing that right off the rip. It's going to be an interesting run for this squad of how do we manage expectations versus how do we get results, and how do we stay consistent moving forward into the rest of the season and keep the pressure on the Dolphins and the Knights. That's their job now, is just keep the pressure on, keep the foot on the gas, go for it. Yes, 2 losses going into the break is never a fun time. However, I think coming back out of the break, you're going to see a lot of dominance out of this squad, and a continued dominance, because they know how to do it. This is not their first rodeo. It will not be their last. They know what they're doing, and they're going to keep it together until the end of the season, whenever that may come. That moves us to our second squad in our girls' rankings, the Ocean Lakes Dolphins. 6 wins on the season, beaten Cape Henry, Great Bridge, Western Branch, Grassfield, Maury, and First Colonial. Every single team that they've beaten that's a public school is in the top 13 of our rankings. So kudos to them for playing such a tough schedule. And then the only loss that they have on their schedule is a 3-4 tilt against Norfolk Academy. The same Norfolk Academy that Kellam only beat 1-0. So what does that tell you? It tells me a lot. It tells me that this team is really good. It tells me this team can put up goals when they need to. And it tells me that this team, if you look at the other results, especially against teams like Great Bridge, Western Branch, and Grassfield, between the 3 top Southeastern District teams, they only gave up 1 goal. That's pretty solid. That's why they are ranked at number 2. So, well done to those ladies. And keep pushing, keep working, and y'all will have a shot at our number 1 in a couple weeks, the Kellam Lady Knights. There's no way that you can say that the defending state champions, who are undefeated in 6 games, who have taken on the likes of Grassfield, War Hill, Jamestown, Norfolk Academy, and First Colonial, and beaten them all, giving up only 1 goal in the process, you can't tell me that they're not number 1. Yes, they've gotten the accolades. Yes, they've gotten all the praise and the hype and everything else, but it's deserved. You can't tell me it's not, because if you tell me that, I'm going to laugh at you. I'm going to point and laugh at you and ask you why you're being so silly. It's where they are. And until somebody beats them, until somebody knocks them off their perch, where else can we put them? Where else can we even consider putting them? Now, like I said, they've got Ocean Lakes in a couple weeks. Kempsville's going to be a tough test. Cox might give them a run for their money. There's matchups that they have coming up that could leave them in a bit of a pickle. But this is still the best team in the state, defending-wise, at defending champs of 5A, of Class 5. We have to give them their flowers. So, that's our rankings for the ladies. If you have questions, let me know. If you have thoughts, let me know. Comment down in the comment section and tell me if I'm wrong, tell me if I'm right. But that's where we sit. Now, let's move on to the boys. With the boys' rankings, I don't want to say that it was simple. I don't want to say that it was easy. But it was straightforward. And it was kind of like putting pieces of a puzzle together. Once you knew, the way everybody should set up puzzles if you're trying to do it with some modicum of simplicity, is you put together all the edges first, and then you just fill in the middle. And you go by the colors that you know and the ones that make sense, and then you eventually come up with something that looks like an image. That's kind of what we did here. Is we put our corners together and we figured out, okay, well, this goes here and this team goes there. This makes sense. And then we filled out the sides and we said, okay, this team's kind of in between this team and this team. This team's in between this team and this team. So that's where they're. Now we just fill in those gaps. And by the end of it, genuinely, we feel that our rankings adequately reflect the state of soccer in the 757 at the high school level as it sits. This will change. Your team can go up, your team can go down. There is no saying that these are static placements. This is just where I think your team is and who I think the best teams are in the moment. My mind could change from game to game. Now, what I will say is the reason that I feel this way, and the reason that I put my voice and my backing and my confidence in these rankings is because, well, I watch more soccer of all the teams than probably anyone in the area. I don't know a single person who watches more games on a weekly basis than I do. That includes the people at 757 teams, that includes your coaches, that includes casual fans. I consume a lot of soccer. Plus, I also consume soccer while I'm at home. I will flip on NFHS on my computer and watch matches and see how teams compare to each other, see how teams played each other during matchups. Was that 2-1 game a close matchup? Or did one team boss the game for 75 minutes, and then in the last 5, the other team woke up and found a goal? That's what I'm looking for. That's what I'm trying to figure out when it comes to these games, these rankings, these setups. So you have to, please take these with a grain of salt. This is not a slight against your team. This is not just me throwing darts at a wall. This is definitive, educated guesses at teams' performances and how they do. And then sometimes teams, the great equalizer for all of this is the fact that teams tie. Teams don't just win and lose in this sport. They tie. And when they tie, it makes my life difficult, as we'll see later. But for now, let's get into these rankings. Coming in, number 20, Hickory Hawks. I've seen these gentlemen a couple of times over the course of the past 4 weeks, and some interesting results. Lost to First Colonial. We saw that live. It was a very interesting game because Hickory pushed a lot of the game. They had 7 free kicks inside the 25, converted none of them, and did not do well. And then we watched their matchup against Cox, where they pulled out a 2-1 victory on the back of a big free kick. And if you haven't seen it, go watch the goals of the week. It's the last one on that reel. 324 to 328 part 2. It's the last reel of goals of the week that we just put up. It's a banger. Then they dropped a game to Kempsville, 0-2 at home. So tough matchups to start the year. And then they went to Kellam. And that's where it got awkward. And Kellam put up 6 on them, and now life is weird. They're sitting at 1-3. They're questioning a little bit, but sticking with the system. They got back to winning ways, beat up on Maury 7-0 right before the break. So where do the Hawks sit? Well, they sit in 20th. Not quite out of it, but surely with a couple of teams behind them that are looking to break into the top 20. And, if they played any of the teams in the top, 5 down, how are they going to fare? It's going to be an interesting question, an interesting theory, because they're good. I see the quality. I see the vision. I see what they want to do, but in a tough schedule such as they have set themselves up for, and now a tough district with Southeastern District that they're going to have to compete in, can they maintain consistent winning ways to salvage a good seed going into the playoffs and make an opportunity for themselves to advance, unlike some years prior? That's going to be yet to be seen. So that's your Hickory Hawks at number 20. Number 19, the War Hill Lions. Now, this team, we just haven't really seen enough of them, but they also have some interesting results. They played York twice and put up 3 on them each time. They beat Westmoreland 8-0, so they have 3 wins, but their other results don't show but so much promise. But there's still plenty of time left in the Bay Rivers District schedule for them to improve. Jamestown, Smithfield, Poquoson, Lafayette, all these teams that they still have yet to play, Bruton as well, that will test them, and they'll have to figure it out. A loss to Menchville is their only blemish on the schedule. That was the first game of Keepers Cup, and then they've drawn with Princess Anne and Cox. So drawing with two of the best beach teams in the area, not bad results. So it's going to be an interesting sequence to see what they're able to do moving forward. And if they get a couple of results, they will bump up the standings without a question. Just ahead of them, speaking of, those Lafayette Rams. Now, funnily enough, both of these teams, War Hill and Lafayette, have tied Princess Anne. War Hill tied them 2-2. Lafayette tied them 3-3. And if we're honest, Lafayette should have won that game. But here we sit. Lafayette has also a second draw with Woodside 3-3. Then they've lost their last 2 matches, Great Bridge and Menchville, leaving them with a 2-2 record. So what do we have in the Rams? I still don't know. Defending state champions for Class 3. They did have a great senior class last year, and it propelled them to hoisting that title. This year, moving forward, they have plenty of class players. They have plenty of quality. But the results, as we can tell from the record, inconsistent. So with a 3-game slide going into the break, now they have to come back and they have to start putting up green results. They have to start back their winning ways. And Granted, they have probably the toughest schedule to do it in with the Bay Rivers District, and I would assert that the Bay Rivers is just as daunting and compelling and team eating other team, dog eat dog as the Beach or the Southeastern, because there's a number of teams that will compete in any given Tuesday and any given Thursday. Any given team can win. So can Lafayette find the consistency, or are they going to struggle for that consistency for, still in game 13 and game 15 and game 17? That's going to be the question for the Rams moving forward. And so far it's gotten them in 18th. 17th. Lansdowne Eagles, another team that did really well last year, had state aspirations, but they're in the same boat. They are looking for consistency. A great start to the year, 2 wins, 2 draws, beating Oscar Smith and Deep Creek, and then holding Deep Run to a 0-0 draw and Grassfield to a 1-1 draw. Fantastic job against 3 6A opponents that could be their main rivals moving forward. But then the last 3 have not been great. Losses to Great Bridge, Branch, and Cox, where they've only put up 1 goal and given up 7. It's put the Eagles down a bit. They have to get back to scoring. They have to get back to winning ways. And now with a difficult beach schedule coming up, they still have Princess Anne, they still have Kellam, they still have FC to go, still have Kempsville and Salem. It's not going to be the easiest endeavor for the Eagles to get back to what they need to, especially with the way 6A is set up. They're fighting against all these other teams from the 804 to try and get a good seed, as well as Grassfield, as well as Oscar Smith, as well as Western Branch, who all 3 of those teams have at least 4 wins. So they are behind the 8 ball right now. The Eagles are, and they need to quickly get back to their winning ways to get higher in our rankings, as well as to get back on track with their season. Just ahead of them, we have listed Grafton at 16, another team from the Bay Rivers District. Grafton only played 4 matches. They're one of the few teams that have only played 4. They did win their last 2. They dropped their only loss to Menchville 2-0 and drew with Tab 2-2. Those 2 teams tend to kind of stick together as it sits. So we have a great little group of squads in 3A at the boys' side. Lafayette, Tab, Grafton, and York this year. York's just outside of our top 20 in those 21 through 25 spots. They're all kind of in that same boat of, can we get it done? Can we excel when the lights come on brightest? So want to see more out of Grafton, want to see more out of the Clippers, and see if they can improve on their ranking moving forward. They did make states last year. This is a team that knows how to get to the playoffs, knows how to get to the state title game, or at least the state championship rounds. I think they fell in the semis, in fact. So this is a squad, and they won state championship a few years ago. This isn't out of the realm for this team. So keep an eye out on Grafton, see if they'll move up into the rankings. At 15, we had Norview. Norview, our Eastern District representative for the boys' side. They did play Oscar Smith the other night on Friday, right before break. They did have an unfortunate 2-1 loss. They were actually up 1-0, and then an own goal unfortunately tied the matchup for them. And then Oscar Smith managed to get a second, did really well in that second half to take the victory. So losses in 2 of their last 3. To Kempsville, they played very well. They had some unfortunate circumstance in that game towards the end. And then the Oscar Smith match. But the teams that they're supposed to beat, they've beaten. And kudos to them for that, commendments for that. So they're 6-2. They're not a bad team at all. They possess the ball well. They move the ball through the midfield incredibly well, and they do not look like they would. I will give them their flowers on this one. Is they are not a team that you look at and go, okay, they're going to sit there and make 1-2 passes through you for 80 yards. I've watched them do it against 4 different teams. It's not just it wasn't a one-off show. I've seen 4 of their matches, and I watched them just beam bop boom bop beam bop bam down the field, and then they do that a number of times, and then they lull you into, okay, we have to play them close, we have to play tight, and then they've just popped the ball down to Didier Martinez, who, fantastic player, one of the best strikers in the area without question, and he's hurt a number of teams on long runs because they've pressed up. It's kind of like in football when, you run the ball, and the linebackers step up and the safeties step up, and then all of a sudden you run a play action pass and throw it over the top. That's exactly their offense, and it works, and it will continue to work. And they're a good team. Like, there are a lot of people who detract against this team and crap on them because of their schedule. It's a weak schedule comparatively to the Beach District and the Southeastern District and the Bay Rivers District. Those districts are set up with teams that all are really good. So is Norview going to get the best schedule in the world? No, they're not going to. However, against the teams that against Kempsville and Oscar Smith, teams that are competitive, teams that are towards the top 20 or in the top 20, they've been right there with them. It's not like they're bad. It's not like they're getting blown out. They're competing. They're scoring. In fact, the match against Kempsville was 2-2 until the last 8 minutes. It's not out of the realm of possibility that this team can repeat what they did last year and go back to states. 5B is still wide open. This team can go back to the Class 5 playoffs and go back to the Class 5 state playoffs. I've seen it. They just have to stay healthy. And with the schedule that they have set up, they're gonna do well. They're gonna get a good seed, and then they're gonna move forward. So kudos to them sitting there at 15. At 14, Tab Tigers. And a lot of people are going to kind of give me flack for this one because it's a weird place for this team, especially a team that has only seen 4 games. But they tied with Grafton. They only lost to Bruton, who is in the top 10, 1-0. They came back and beat Menchville 5-4 in a rain game. I understand that might have been some weird circumstances, so we ranked them as such. They also beat Colonial Heights out 4-1. So sitting on 2 wins, a draw, and a loss. It's an interesting team. We haven't seen enough of them to put them any higher, but we also haven't seen anything bad out of them that would suggest that they should be lower. So I feel they're right there in 14th. They're in that spot where they could go up or they could go down, depending on how their Bay Rivers District schedule turns out. Swinging them over to the beach, now we have First Colonial. First Colonial boys sitting at 13. And I think that number kind of suits how their season has gone. It's gone unlucky. But you got to look at their you got to look at the schedule. This is dumb. Hickory, Great Bridge, Grassfield, Kellam, Ocean Lakes. Tell me any team who wants to play those 5 teams first off the bat. And tell me any team who would be undefeated against all of those teams. Oh, wait, you can't. Because it's impossible. Genuinely, it's not possible. It's a gauntlet. And, 2-0 over Hickory, 3-2 over Great Bridge, great results. 0-2 to Grassfield, tough game. 0-6 to Kellam. Kellam's a monster this year. Just an absolute monster. They bossed that entire match. And I was there, I was watching it. It was tough to watch, honestly, especially if you're an FC fan, especially if you're a soccer fan. It was weird to see a First Colonial team concede 6 goals. I don't think I've ever seen that in my entire life, and I'm 35. I don't think in the entire 35 years that I have been alive that First Colonial has conceded 6 goals in one match before. If they have, let me know, because I can't tell you. And then losing to Ocean Lakes, 1-2. Ocean Lake's a good team. Ocean Lakes is a good team. They're a scrappy team. They're going to continue to put up wins and put up results in the Beach District, and they're going to make a name for themselves in the 5A playoffs. That's just the way it is. So, I feel for I feel for First Colonial here because they're 2-3 in a rough spot, but they still got 10, 11 games to go. They're going to find their winning ways. They're going to put up greens. They're going to put up their wins. And they're still going to find themselves in a good spot. It's just, can they make the consistency, just like some of these other squads, can they be consistent going through the Beach District schedule to get where they need to go? I almost dropped my phone that I'm recording this podcast on. That was the fear in my voice just there. Number 12, Menchville. An interesting team. They've beaten War Hill, they've beaten Grafton, they've beaten Lafayette. They've beaten all the teams that are below them, except for Tab. And I hear that game was a weird one because rain does weird things to teams. We were there for Jamestown. It was hard to watch. Very hard to watch. Not fun to watch either. So, where do we go from here? Well, Menchville's got a Peninsula District schedule that's going to not really challenge them as much as you'd like them to be challenged. It's not a Bay Rivers District schedule. It's not a beach schedule, and it's not a Southeastern District schedule. Will there be a couple of tough matches? Yeah, sure, absolutely. Menchville also has some interesting out-of-conference matchups still to come. I think they actually play First Colonial later on in May. So in that, there are still opportunities for them to showcase their talent, showcase their abilities, and showcase just what they can do. So still excited for that moving forward. So sitting at 12, it's kind of where they sit right now, and that's going to be their big thing, is can they get back into the top 10? Can they beat out the likes of Smithfield, Western Branch, Brewton, Ocean Lakes? It remains to be seen. The other team that's really looking to get back into that top 10 is going to be the Kempsville Chiefs. They've had what we easily can describe as an up and down season. But it's not just up and down because of the results. It's an up and down in just how they've gotten those results. Put it to you this way. In the games that they've given up 0 or 1 goal in, they're 4-0. In the games that they've given up 2 goals or more, they're 1 win, 2 losses, and a draw. And their 2 losses are to Ocean Lakes and Princess Anne by 3-2 scores. Both of those games, late winners by the opposition. In fact, they should have beaten Ocean Lakes 2-1. And then they gave up a goal in the last minute. And then PA, I heard, was a last gasp winner as well. So this team could genuinely be sitting at 8-0, undefeated, could be ranked 4th or even 3rd, maybe even 2nd as it sits. However, just outside the top 10, because they still have some growing pains to get through. Their young guys at the back still are giving up some opportunities to teams that they shouldn't give up, but they're young. They're learning. I get that. But that does affect their ranking. That does affect their position in the standings. And that could continue to plague them all the way through May and leading up to the playoffs. Hopefully, it does not affect them but so much, and it doesn't bring them away from their ultimate goal, which is getting into the playoffs and making noise. So we're going to see how things shake out for the Chiefs moving forward, and if they can make a run going into the rest of April and May in order to get back into the top 10 and cement their place in that group. Ocean Lakes, number 10. This team has 2 losses to Grassfield and to Smithfield, and they've beaten everybody else. Oscar Smith, Kempsville, Nansemond River, Maury, First Colonial. Fantastic results, tough results. They're gritty. They're scrappy. They do the job. They do the work, and then they don't complain. It's a fantastic team to watch. Their only two losses are to teams that are above them, and they're tight games as well, tight losses. So kudos to the Dolphins. Keep pushing, keep working, and if they do, they're gonna bump up in the standings. Bruton, their only loss is a 1-0 loss to Smithfield. They've beaten Tab, Kecoughtan, Ndua, Hampton. Want to see more out of this squad because obviously they've got Bay Rivers District competition coming up. Jamestown, Jamestown, War Hill, a Tab again, Grafton, just everybody. So this is the one team that if they keep winning is going to go up, and it's going to be noticeable. Because everybody's going to be like, who is Bruton? Nobody knows who Bruton is, except for the people who know who Bruton are. Because Bruton is not a school that is talked about a lot in the South Side. I don't know many people who you couldn't tell me where Bruton is. So it's one of those things where, because they're a 2A school as well, we don't see them for football. We don't see them for basketball often, which is the two main ways that we would see any school from the Bay Rivers District. So all of a sudden, them popping up and being really good at soccer, even though they made states last year, is nobody really knows. Now, if those results start piling in and they're not the great, it's going to be an unfortunate tumble for that squad, but so it's keeping those games against Jamestown and Grafton competitive. If they do end up being negative results, but then if they can be ties, if they can be wins, oh man, sky's the limit for this squad. So looking for big things out of the Panthers moving forward from 9. Number 8, Western Branch Bruins. Now we're getting into the nitty-gritty of our table. 3-2 squad. Their only 2 losses are to 2 teams ahead of them, Kellam and Smithfield. Kellam, they only lost to 2-0. That's tough. Smithfield, they only lost to 1-0. That's tough. Then beating Granby, Maury, Lansdowne. Good results. Excuse me. So this team is a solid team. What they've shown so far is that they are worth the hype. They have shown so far that they are worth the plaudits. They are worth the ranking. And we're going to continue to monitor how they do throughout the Southeastern District and if they can maintain that status, especially with how tough that district's going to be. Just ahead of them, Smithfield. We talked about them a little bit with who they beat. They beat Bruton, they beat Ocean Lakes, they beat Western Branch, but the 2 teams that they have lost to, both in the top 5, in Gloucester and Grassfield. Or no, not top 5, top 6, Gloucester and Grassfield. So a couple of tight matches there, but they're still a good team. They're still a quality team, and I know both of those matches were second half wins by the teams that won. So, or maybe it's just teams that start with the letter G that they don't like. As long as they don't play anybody else who start. Oh, okay, don't play. Well, they're going to play Grafton. But anybody else that starts with a G, I don't know. They might do well against that. If that ends up being a thing by the end of the season, we're going to look back on this and we're going to laugh. So 4-2 record. They've shown that they can hang in games, that they can do really well, and looking forward to seeing more of them moving into April and May. Grassfield stepping up, the hardest schedule in the 757, without a doubt. Southeastern District boys. And they are sitting at 3-2-2. It's a weird kind of mix. Their 2 losses are to 2 teams that are in the top 5. Their 2 ties are to 2 teams that, tough matchups. And then their 3 wins are to teams that are very close to them. Smithfield, First Colonial, and Ocean Lakes. This is a team that genuinely I've watched a number of times now. They're tough. They're gritty. They do really good things with the football, and they move it well. They make plays. They make opportunities. There's a couple of moments where they haven't finished that I've seen live, and there's a couple of moments on video where I've gone, wow, that's awesome. So to get into that top 5, they're going to have to start getting results against some other squads. So you've got still Great Bridge coming up. You've got Western Branch below you coming up. You got Hickory coming up. You got Nansemond River, a couple of these other squads. The more results that they can start to get, the more that we can start looking into them getting into the top 5 past, PA or Great Bridge, even though PA beat them. So we'll see how that goes. Speaking of PA, number 5. This is a team that it doesn't matter what I say about them. They're going to consistently continue to do the work. 3 wins, no losses, 3 draws. And, did I crap on them at the beginning of the season and say they did not belong at number 2? Yes. Do I still hold to that? Yes. That's why I have them at number 5. I'm not saying that they're a bad team. I'm just saying that they're not number 2 worthy yet. Number 2 worthy will come later in the season when they get into the playoff spots and they find themselves, or if they knock off like Kellum or something. I think I have to figure out how to go to that game too now, especially if they continue this quote unquote undefeated run. Starting off the year with 3 draws out of 4 matches, Lafayette, War Hill, and Great Bridge, and then they beat Grassfield 2-0. A come-from-behind victory against Bayside, and a tight one against Kempsville with a late winner shows them at 3 wins and 3 draws. I don't necessarily know still what to make of this team. I just don't know. I've seen them now 4 times. And each time they've disappointed in their defending, disappointed in their ability to get forward and score, but then they score, and they score a lot, and they keep tying. I have been to 3 games now where they've tied the game. Hickory, Lafayette, and Great Bridge. Maybe I need to stop going to Princess Anne games and they'll stop tying them. I don't know. Because I wasn't at the War Hill match. That was a tie, but that was, at Warner. I wasn't going to Williamsburg again. I didn't see the Grassfield match. I didn't see the Bayside match. I didn't see the Kempsville match. Maybe that's it. Maybe I just need to stay away from Princess Anne games. All right, fine. I won't go to the Princess Anne Kellum matchup. Cavaliers, top 5 for a reason. They're a good team. They're a good team. And they're state champions 2-3 years ago. It's not like they're not going to be bad. They just had some circumstances and some woeful defending at times that you go, really? But then they turn it around and they find the goal that they need to either tie the game or win the game. So we'll see how it goes. Can they move past Great Bridge? Can they move past Gloucester? Can they find a win against Kellum to bump up into the standings? We will see. Sitting at number 4, the team that they tied 3-3 just last week or the week before, the Great Bridge Wildcats. This team has just been consistent for years and years and years now. This year, a little bit different. They're sitting at 3-1-2, solid wins in the games that they've won. They did lose to FC, controversially, but then they've also drawn with Kellum and Princess Anne. And the Kellum game was a 1-1 game. It was a little more even than people were expecting. Obviously, rain delayed for 45 minutes, or lightning delayed, however long it was. I like this squad, and I like what they do with the ball. I like the system that they're playing this year. It's more team inclusive. They don't have those individual players that they really play to this season. It really shows off the whole team, and it complements their current makeup very well. Can they hold the line defensively? 3 games this year, they've given up at least 2 goals. It's very uncharacteristic of a Great Bridge squad. Now, did they hold Kellum to a goal? Yes. Fantastic. Did they shut out Lansdowne and Lafayette? Yes. Fantastic. Remains to be seen, can they consistently moving through Southeastern District play? Can they hold the good teams out of the net? If they can, they'll do fine. If
If they can't, we're going to start seeing results pop up here and there that make you raise an eyebrow, scratch your head. And then going into the 5A playoffs, that'll be an interesting thing if seeding is, when it comes time to do seeding, it'll be an interesting thing to see how those results interfere with where they may or may not want to be. So, Great Bridge at 4. Up next, Gloucester at 3. The Dukes are undefeated. They're one of only a couple undefeated squads on the boys' side. Churchland, Hampton, Poquoson, Denby, and Smithfield. Their competition has only gotten harder as the season went on into break. So now they face a Penn District schedule that's going to be mid at best, but they'll have some challenges. They have a couple teams that they're going to have to work through and figure out. Remember, Peninsula District teams, they generally play their games at their school on smaller fields, or not, I don't want to say smaller, but less, they're more like rec fields than they are the turf fields that most of us play on now, or the large swaths of grasslands like Grassfield or Lansdowne. So it's gonna be interesting to see. Some of the results might not always be 8-0, 9-0. Some of them might be 4-1, like their Denby score. But that being said, still plenty of opportunities for this Gloucester squad moving forward. They do have some tests coming up later on in the year as far as their schedule is concerned, teams that they've got to play, and they got to get through Menchville. So, going to be an interesting push forward. They want that 4A top seed again. They want to prove that they're better than last year and that they're going to do more than last year. Now, their biggest competition in 4A, just ahead of them at the number 2 spot, Jamestown. The only loss that this team has is to Kellam, 2-1 at Warner Stadium. Tight game, tough game. They lost the second half of that game. They feel that they should have gotten points out. Every other team that they've played, they've shut out. They beat Bethel and Kickintan and Woodside by a ton of goals, beat Menchville comprehensively 4-0. This is a team. This is a squad. These boys are good. So, moving forward, not a lot I need to say about them because, they've already said everything that they need to. They're here to play. They're here to stay. They're looking to get back to the state championships. And then at the top, number 1, Kellam. Undefeated. They've done the jobs. They've done the work. They've put it in the plaudits. And at this point, no one's really been able to touch them. The only team that bothered to give them any frustrations, Great Bridge with the draw, and that was, again, a weird circumstance, weird game. And then Jamestown, 2-1. They've also beaten Grassfield. They've beaten Western Branch. They've beaten First Colonial comprehensively. And then they knocked off Arcadia and Green Run going into the break. So plenty more to come from the Knights. A couple matches that we're going to see out of them this year. Much like their ladies' side, we have to give them the flowers. We can't sit here and say, oh, they're not that good. Oh, they're not good. No, they are that good. And until someone knocks them off, we're going to have to continue to say, yes, they are that good. They're going to be the standard. And the standard is the standard until the standard is no longer the standard anymore. And if you've ever had a coach tell you that, then they're telling you something right. So that's it for today. I've done a lot of talking. I've done a lot of capitulating about these teams and giving you insights into my thoughts, my feelings, my rankings. Top 20 boys and girls soccer teams at the high school level in the 757. So that'll be all for today. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy your spring break if you were on spring break. Enjoy your time. And in the meantime, I'm going to go enjoy mine at a computer chair doing editing. Woot! I appreciate you all. I love you all. I thank you very much for being a part of this community and listening to this podcast and giving me just a small sliver of your day with your eyes, your ears, your likes, your comments, your subscriptions, your follows, and all the rest of it. So, that all being said, thank you, 757, and we will see you next time.